Good morning, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Yes, it is Thursday morning. There's 8 days to go until Celtic play their first game of pre-season. Now, whilst historically Celtic always used the first game of pre-season to try out some of the younger players, and it allows Brendan Rodgers to see the depth and breadth of the younger players coming through. It gives them a chance to see what they're like up close and personal the first week of pre-season, but it also gives them the chance to bleed some of them into the team and decide whether or not they're going to go out on loan this season. It also gives Brendan Rodgers, as he's said before, it gives them the chance to see the new players that come into Celtic. But once again, we're left lagging behind. When you look at the transfer business that other clubs are doing around Scotland, not just Scotland, when you look at the UK market as well, there's a lot of clubs signing players and getting players in early for pre-season. Brendan Rodgers himself has said in the past, I want to get the players need a good pre-season. That's Brendan Rodgers' words. It's not words that we've made up. Let's look at the facts that we knew at the end of last season. We knew that we needed a winger in to replace Jota, who's going to be out injured until January. We knew that we needed 2 left backs in, although we knew that Kieran Tierney was returning. We did need a replacement for Jeffrey Sloop, who was brought in on loan. Unless Brendan Rodgers is going to promote one of the young lads from the B team. But then is that good enough for Celtic going into the Champions League? I would suggest not. It doesn't give us the high level backup that you need going into that competition. I think it's bringing someone from the B team and expecting them to produce at a high level in the Champions League. Whilst we all want younger players to come in, I don't think that there's any ready to make that step up from B team to Champions League. We just do not have it at Celtic. So there was a number of positions. We knew that we needed a striker. People will say, but we've got Dyson Maeda as number 1 striker. Well, Brendan Rodgers says that we tried to get someone in after Kyogo Furiashi left, and it's a case that we didn't. There's several positions that we didn't get players in for. Brendan's unhappy, it's said by certain people in the media, that he's not happy with the defensive pairing of Trusty and Liam Scales. They just weren't up to the standards that he would expect of Celtic defenders, whilst they're great players, and you never know what could happen. As Charlie Mulgrew said, look, I didn't play the first 2 games of the season one year, and I went on to become Scotland's player of the season as most improved player. Things like that can happen. They have happened to Liam Scales in the past. Liam Scales was on his way out the door. We all know he was all ready to go back to Aberdeen, and he turned his career around. But he's hit a glass ceiling, if you like, and on his progression as a player, especially when it comes to the Champions League side of it. So Brendan Rodgers is 8 days away from the first game of the pre-season game of the season. Whilst not all the first team players will be back, there are still some on international duty. I think Brendan Rodgers will be sitting privately and saying, what's the hold up? What is the hold up? And for people saying, look, who was it that said right at the beginning? Port Chocolate Express says it's about balancing the book without disruption. Ange Postecoglou used to get players in. We've said this before. Ange Postecoglou used to get players in 6 months before they knew another player would be leaving. If they think that Nico Kuna is going to leave this summer, it's only prudent that you get the player in beforehand, so that you know that there's not going to be any disruption, so that there's no, you're not going to be chasing your tails and paying over the odds. And let's face it, this is what happened last year at Celtic. We didn't move fast enough to get Adam Idah in. And you've got to remember, when Adam Idah came in on loan, everyone said, you'll get him for 3 million, 3.5 million. We ended up paying 9 million for Adam Idah. Now, when clubs start to realise that you're scrambling about, needing to fill positions and needing to bring players in, they can hold off and say, we're going to squeeze a bit more money out of Celtic. They're desperate. And this is This is the adverse effect of waiting till July, as some people have suggested. Wait until July because they don't want to pay the wages. Well, you can still do the signing in June, but the contract doesn't start till the 1st of July. You can still get all the paperwork done. And the contract starts. The contract doesn't have to start the day that they sign. I mean, they can sign the paperwork and it's like 1st of July. That's it. Boom, you're a Celtic player officially. It's the way that contracts work. If you're hanging off until the calendar date of, it says it's for me in a business point of view, it's poor negotiating skills. It's piss poor negotiating skills, and that comes down to Michael Nicholson and Chris Mackay. And although we've got to say that they've got a fantastic track record over Celtic in the last few years, would that track record have been as good if we hadn't made the Champions League? Because this is where this Celtic board will be ultimately judged. It's the years that we do not make the Champions League. The Champions League, all the Champions League did last year was paper over cracks and financially does it make us look better than what we actually are? 30 million in merchandise, 40 odd million in Champions League money. Whilst that's all good, spending 20 million on Barrafield isn't going to give you that instant return. But anyway, it is all about what Brendan Rodgers will say to the media over the next week. He will obviously be interviewed next week when it comes to a pre-season game. But all eyes are on Celtic. We're at the end of another week. We all thought that there would be more business done this week than there has been. Obviously, with the death of a Celtic legend, would it put paid to some of the contract negotiations and some of the other things? But the news coming out of Germany that the Nico Kuhn one isn't a done deal. There hasn't been a bid as such. There's been nothing concrete with the Nico Kuhn situation and RB Leipzig. And maybe that's why Celtic are holding off. But then if they are holding off, it then comes back to, well, you're then chasing your tail. Sometimes in business it's better to have the foresight to go and plan ahead. And it seems to me that we've went into the window again, whilst Brendan Rodgers and Paul Tisdale can plan ahead all they want, and they can tell the board what players they want, they can tell them what positions they need filled. We all know what positions need filled. The fact is that it'll be interesting to see, because Brendan Rodgers can no longer use the line. It's when we get to the summer, the winter window, if Brendan Rodgers turns around and says, well, they need a good pre-season. Well, you've said that for 3 seasons now, Brendan. And you can't start saying to the fans, a player needs a good pre-season at Celtic. This is your time. This is your time to put pressure as a manager to show your authority as manager, to tell the people upstairs to get the deals done and dusted so you can get your way, to get these players to have a good pre-season. There's no use bringing them in at the end of the transfer window at the end of August when we may have already played the qualifier for the Champions League, and wait until that point. If Nico Kuhn doesn't get sold until after the Champions League qualifier and we don't bring in his replacement till then, there's a chance that Nico Kuhn is going to go into that Champions League qualifier going, I'm not going to try my hardest here because I'm just waiting on the phone ringing for Germany. And if you go to Germany, it's a really, really, I mean, the ins and outs of the business model has been laid bare over the years at Celtic, and we all know the way that the club works. But if the club are serious about wanting to move forward, if they're serious about wanting to move forward to the next level and back Brendan Rodgers, now's the time to show it. Now is the time to act, to say, yeah, we're 100% behind you, Brendan, about getting focused, about going into the Champions League as strong as we can. That qualifier, those 2 games, that's a £40 million gamble. Are we prepared to take that £40 million gamble? That's the reality of the situation. That is the reality of the situation. We're gambling with £40 million here. And if it works, it's great. The board will be like, easy. Told you we'd get everyone in. But if you're bringing in 4 or 5 first team players that don't know the system, if we're having a change of system this year as well, if we're having a formation change away from the 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1 formation, the players need 4 or 5 weeks to get up to speed with that. They need to get into the rhythm with this new formation change. That then puts another added pressure onto the Champions League game, which is a pressure that I don't think Brendan Rodgers would really want to put the players under. So for me, he will go in with he'll go to that game with the 4-3-3 formation. And if he's going to change it for the league, you'll see subtle changes before then. But I just think it's unbelievable that we're in this situation. Well, it's not. It's normal with Celtic, isn't it? It is normal with Celtic. Whilst we all thought that this would be the week. I mean, there's a player that was at Lennoxtown last week. What's the hold up with that one? If he was at Lennoxtown last week, the deal's been done. It's been signed. The contract will say that he starts the first of July or whenever. But you can still announce it. You can still put it out there to the media. Celtic yesterday obviously confirmed the fact that they have brought in Shawn Maloney. Shock news. Celtic did say that they've brought in Shawn Maloney to the important role. Celtic Football Club are delighted to announce that Shawn Maloney has been appointed as the club's new professional player pathway manager, with the aim of developing progressing players at the club until he gets a heads up about a coaching job. Shawn will work closely with Paul Tisdale, our head of football operations, and the men's first team manager Brendan Rodgers, Chris McCarthy, head of the academy, and the club's B team coaches. In this hugely important role, it's massively important. It's been such a successful role over the last year. Who writes this stuff, Celtic? ChatGPT. Through the maintenance of strong relationships with clubs across leagues, both domestically and internationally, the role will also manage loan opportunities with players. The pathway manager will develop opportunities. So, here we have it. 17-year-old Jamal comes through the ranks at Celtic, and he's loaned off to somewhere in deep, dark Austria to play a couple of seasons and never be seen again. That's dramatic, isn't it? Shawn himself came through the ranks of Celtic before making 200 first-team appearances, winning 5 league titles, 3 cups with the club. He also played for Aston Villa, Wigan in the English Premier League, having spelled with the English Championship and MLS side. Following the end of his playing career, he held management positions at Wigan and Hibernian. Shawn said it's a huge honour to be given the opportunity to return to Celtic, a role which I'm passionate about until the first coaching job comes up. My aim will be to work really close between the academy and the first team and create the best opportunities for success. Are we waiting too long to loan players out at the ages of 20, 21? Should we not be loaning them out quicker? But anyway, it's going to be interesting to see what Shawn can do. I've been fortunate enough to follow the same pathway. Now I'm excited about ensuring that many more players can take the same journey. Paul Tisdale, the man, the myth, the legend, the football doctor, has spoken. He said, "I'm delighted that we've been able to bring Shawn back to the club in this role." Rolling sausage. Shawn will be tasked with developing the internal and external processes necessary to ensure that we optimise the talents of our young players. It's all boardroom talk, isn't it? It's all fluff and it's just a boardroom meeting chat, this. Through his experience and knowledge, Shawn will be able to add significant value to the role. Oh, come on. I've been in meetings like this and they talk like this, and it's like, yeah, you're great added value. Welcome Shawn back to Celtic. Brendan Rodgers says, I'm really pleased to welcome Shawn back in this post. Someone I believe will make a great contribution to the club in this area. He's an intelligent guy and he knows what it takes to be successful at Celtic. I think that'll be an invaluable experience in this role. The fact is, let's cut the fluff. Let's cut the fluff and let's dissect that statement by Celtic. The fact is, young players coming through at Celtic can leave Celtic 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old, and they can go down south and they can earn 10 grand a week. No matter what fluff you put out, no matter what adding value, it comes down to cold, hard cash. Until we compete at a level for the youngsters and give them what their agents are wanting. And in this day and age, in the Instagram era, in the era where like focus it's Instagrammable, flashing the cash, I'm earning this much, football players living the dream. Until we start paying the going rate for the youngsters, Paul Tisdale could say what he wants. Shawn Maloney can say what he wants. Celtic can say what they want. Oh, dude, these international connections. We're going to make connections with these other... I thought we had all these connections in place. And what have we been doing with this Austrian club, Admiral Wacker? We've been sending players there for the last couple of seasons to make our players better, and we thought that this was a great pathway. Well, it's not. So they've basically went, well, what Darren O'Dee's done over the last couple of years, just scratch it out, start again. Fuck it, it's fucking no word. Start again. We'll put out this great statement, this great boardroom red statement, all fluff and fancy knickers. The reality is it's fur coat and no knickers. And that disappoints me as a fan. I mean, the statement reads great, and it's the kind of thing that you read out to the stock exchange. Yeah, in fact, he also done this, and it's a huge honour. My aim is to work closely with the academy and first team to create the best opportunities for success. Represent more players reaching our first team. No, you won't, because agents will be agents, and they will want to look after their players. And when we'll bring players in and we'll say, right, we're going to give you a contract till you're 20-year-old, the agents went, happy days. Learn your trade at Celtic, young man. Get the best coaching available. And this is actually words that were spoken by Bobby Lennox to my dad about my brother years and years ago. And Bobby Lennox said that, he's advised young kids to come to Celtic, knowing fine well they'll never make it at Celtic. But it's about the football education and the training they get in those early years that sets them up for becoming professional football players. And he said, sometimes you'll go to a club as a younger player just for that coaching. And I think it is the case that there's a lot of players coming through the system that are there for the coaching, knowing fine well that when they hit 17, 18, 19, 20 and their first contract's running out with Celtic, the agent will be saying, do not sign because I'll get you 10 grand a week, 40 grand a month at 18-year-old. That's bonkers. It is bonkers. So anyway, only 8 games to go at the first game of pre-season. We're all excited because we get to see Celtic in action again. It will be on Celtic TV. Celtic have been doing paid ads. Yep, Celtic have been doing paid ads on social media to get people to sign up and pay for the monthly subscription to Celtic Television. Even though they've got over 1 million followers on YouTube, and except is it on YouTube? I don't know. But anyway, they've got millions and millions of fans all around the world. They are having to resort to doing paid adverts to try and increase the subscription. So let's jump into the comments and see what you're all saying about it this morning. And before I go through some more speculation, because it is all just speculation, isn't it? Apart from the Anthony Joseph one, he's confirmed that there's nothing concrete coming from RB Leipzig. So they've obviously entered into talks with Celtic, but there's not been a concrete offer. So they're just trying to upset the apple cart a bit. But anyway, it's just all speculation, isn't it? One of the interesting comments that I've seen, I mean, there's Dundee United signing players, Aberdeen signing players, Ross County signing players, Hibs signing players, all before the month. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, we have signed some players, but other players and other teams in Scotland are signing players to make their squads better. You know, they've got their agenda. They want to. You never see. There's not many. The other clubs in Scotland are doing like last minute deals on deadline day to get in 4 or 5 players, are they? Which seems to be the Celtic way. But anyway, let's jump into the comments and see what you lovely bunch of people are saying. Stephen Johnson's in, Pork Chop Express. We operate in differently, maybe Baz. You know, it's been for years. Yeah, we do. Yeah. Crap weather in Aberdeen today. Is it another moany day? Let me know if I've been watching all. Good morning, troops. I don't think it's a moany day. I just think it's the reality of the situation that Brendan Rodgers knew that we were in, Lanky. So yeah. And you said there was going to be 4 players in before pre-season. Mr. I predict a riot. Anyway, in other not SPFL news, there is one player that Celtic have been linked for that's now been up for sale, but I don't think Celtic will return to that. It's all about speculation. But we will wait until next week to see what happens, because it's the countdown. It is the countdown until the first game. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. Have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.